Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so moving from one computer to another computer can be a very, very simple thing, or it can be a little bit more complex. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on if you're using a secondary data drive. It depends on if you're using a secure drive. It depends on if you have audio archived prior to doing your backups. Because if you audio archive and job archive prior to doing your speech cat backup will be quick. Again, when you're doing a speech cat backup, it backs up all of your cases, all of your jobs, in the current case list, the history list, and the courtroom list, and secure case if the secure is plugged in. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't do that. The secure does not back up. That's on all on its own. It also backs up your styles if you're a captioner or a cart provider, stations, same thing as styles, your display sets, all your includes and layouts, brief forms, word swaps, and conflicts, and your topic files folder. So that's all good stuff and all stuff that you want to retain. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Um, we are going to talk about selecting your new computer, going through the Windows Hello setup of your new computer, which happens automatically when you turn it on, performing Windows updates on the new computer, and the manufacturer updates as well. On the older computer, you'll need to gather information from your existing computer, which means a backup of your old computer SpeechCat to the external hard drive. You must follow all instructions provided in the order provided. That's important. I have it in a specific order for a good reason. On the new computer, you must configure Windows Sound. You must configure USB audio devices and the internal sound card. You must then install your new applications on the PC. Then you need to do the setup of your AudioScribe program and restore to your new computer. So we're going to go over all that today, one part at a time. So let's talk about selecting the new computer. We've been through this, but I'm just going to hit the main things again because it's important. Your operating system must be Windows Professional. It can be 8.1 or 10. Um, we have been saying that it could be Windows 7 as well, but Windows 7 is no longer supported by Microsoft. And so you cannot get Windows 7. So if you have it on a new computer, chances are you didn't get it in a conventional way. You might have taken it from an old disk, and while you probably own the disk, it's all fine. Understand that there are things going on underneath that you don't know about. I was just with one of our customers yesterday. She's been with us for at least 18 years. Every year, she calls to pay her support and upgrades and have me upgrade her machine, update it. So I do all that for her. And and she says, I don't want to do it. I don't want to screw it up. I want you to do it. And I say, hey, that's what I'm here for. I don't mind at all. And it takes me a fourth of the time that it takes you guys because I do it all the time. In my sleep, I do it. So um, we were updating her and we updated her. Everything seemed to go fine. That was on Thursday. She called me back yesterday and she said, Adria, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting an error. And I said, oh, okay. So I dialed in and I saw the error and I was like, ooh, okay, that's not a dragon error. That is a speech cat error. One that I'd never seen before. And so I said, I think this may be an issue. Well, I went to try to do updates and it will no longer update her computer because it's Windows 7 and Microsoft doesn't support it anymore. That means no more updates, none. And so the computer literally cannot be upgraded. The operating system cannot be upgraded. and I put 78 on her machine, and it caused an error the next day. So I brought her back down to 64. She had been on 55. So 64 was still a jump. She still gets the new speaker and untrans looks. So she was excited, but I was disappointed that I couldn't give her the very latest. So I said, well, I'm not going to let you pay for something you can't have. So you're going to do only support this year. And she was like, but then I'll have to pay a penalty. I said, no, you won't, because I'm going to make a note that you're not capable of upgrading. You cannot upgrade. I said, do not go any further on this computer than this build. And if you do, you'll want me to do it, and we'll test it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, well, then we'll have to go back. I said, but we knew this was going to happen. We just didn't know when. That's just what happens when an OS is no longer supported. That's really what it means. It doesn't mean you can't use it anymore. It means you can't get any help anymore. And if everything's running great, super. When there's a problem, not so super. Okay, this is a big one. That's why it's in red. Please do not go with an AMD processor. If you have friends that use other software, you should tell them that too, because this is not about SpeechCat. This is about Dragon. Okay? The AMD processor and Dragon, they don't get along. The same is very true for Dell computers. For years, I have told people to try to stay away from Dell. Why? I don't like Dell. No, not at all. Dell is a company that generally has a reputation for taking care of its customers. And that's all a company has to do generally to have my respect. However, nothing on them as far as their service or the quality of their product. It just so happens that our experience has been that Dell computers run hot, very hot. And then when the fan kicks on, they're loud. That was in the older days, we definitely saw that, and we started telling people, try to stay away from Dells. Well, then we realized that on the same exact computer, a Dell and a Lenovo side by side, the exact configurations, the Lenovo was translating at least twice as well as on the Dell. I have someone that is a real-time writer that works for the courts, and they want, the courts get good rates when they go through companies like Dell because they're buying in huge volume, and they've got a GSA contract, so it's less expensive for them. And Dell's big there. That's why people go with them. And so the court bought her a Dell, and she said, how's it gonna act? I said, well, baby, I can't tell you how's it gonna act. I've not seen that computer. I've not touched it. I've not had a bunch of customers tell me about it. I said, so I can't tell you for sure how it's going to act, but I can tell you our history with Dell. I said, people don't complain about their Dell computers being taken care of because they do take care of their customers. So it's not a problem with Dell as a company. It's a problem with their manufacturing, I think. Something about some part inside of a Dell makes Dragon respond slower. I wish I could tell you more, give you more good information about it. All I can tell you is that's what I've seen. And unfortunately, this year with this customer, only a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact, I saw it. And so I was disappointed for her because she's a real time writer. And when you go from writing real time to a slower computer, well, to me, it just defeats you. I mean, emotionally, it defeats you. You don't know. You think it's you. The people that bought the computer are telling you it's the best possible computer we can get you. And they're right. They're not lying to you. It's just that not all computers are created equally. I think you guys have heard from the NVRA over the last many years that a lot of the gaming laptops are working. That's because gaming laptops do multi-threading, and meaning that you can do multiple things at one time on them. So they're sort of set up for it, as is the professional Lenovo's that we suggest. They, not that they're gaming, but they are multi-thread so that you can still do multiple things at a time. And one thing that I hope to be able to share with you guys soon, someone asked me yesterday about a feature that we have had for a long, long time, but not a feature that we've used a lot because of its limitations. And I'm off the subject, y'all, but this is kind of important and exciting, so I'm gonna share it with y'all. Um, she asked, can we send a feed from ourselves to a scopist while we're in court so that they can start working on it? And I said, well, yes, we have that ability. It's called send 100% real time and receive 100% real time. So in Scopist, they do the receive, and in SpeechCat, you do the send. It works just like your normal, I mean, everything is normal except for you're sending your text to your Scopist. Here's the problem. How do you get the audio? What does the Scopist do without the audio? Well, I can tell you there are some things I can correct without the audio. But to be certain, I'd want that audio to check. So I thought, well, you could have Skype open and you could be listening, but then they can't rewind. So, you know what I mean? By the time you see it, you've already forgotten what you heard. So I think that that was not a good answer. So I replied to the thread asking about that. Like, I'm sorry, that's a yes and a no question. Here's the answer. The answer is yes, we can do it, but we don't know how to get the audio there. So I started doing some searches and I found something, and I haven't tested it yet, but I'm going to test it this coming week. It is a software called Audio Movers. And it is actually affordable. Like, that was my big concern. Like, oh yeah, I'll find something and then it'll be like thousands of dollars unaffordable. We can't do it. Or like the solution we found 10 years ago for the military when we did this with them, we had to set up a Helix server. And Diane, do you remember the pictures of the pink wire running everywhere around the office?
I do, yes.
When we were setting up for the, I don't know if it was the Army or the Air Force or the Navy we were selling that time, but it must have been the Army because it was about that they were doing that whole investigation into what happened at that prison in Afghanistan or whatever, or somewhere, there were supposedly military people taking pictures and,
Gitmo.
yeah, it was, yeah. And so it was just bad scene. And so they wanted to get the interviews and they wanted them transcribed and in the hands of the prosecutors ASAP. And so we had to figure out a way to stream the audio during the interview across the globe back to the US for them to do highly classified transcription. And so we used a Helix server and we had these pink cables that were running from the computer, each individual computer to the server to connect to the Helix server, and there were these hot pink network cables running all over the office. There were hundreds of feet of pink cable running all over the office. It was hysterical. It was so fun. Something that we certainly remember well. And it was doable and we got it done, but we had to have that Helix server up and running the whole time. And it had to be approved by the Pentagon. So it was just it was something. It was a very complex thing, but we got it done. But we've been trying to make it more accessible ever since then. And I guess we were maybe wanting something that was ahead of its time. I think that now we might be at the right time to actually have it. So it may not fit into our classes, but I might just do a video and post it because it's something that I would want everybody to know about. So I'd probably just post it to our AS videos for everybody. But I will be working on that. Let's get back to selecting your new computer. The primary hard drive must be at least 512 gigabytes, but we recommend 1 terabyte. It is perfectly acceptable to have a 512 as your primary if you have a 1 terabyte as a secondary drive. If you do not, 512 is not going to cut it anymore. The operating system by itself will take half that, believe it or not. Okay, 32 gigs of RAM. If you're planning on doing real time, don't go beneath 32 gigs of RAM. 16 is fine. But if you're using 16 gigabytes of RAM, you have to have a lot of work in your user because 16 is not going to lay it down as fast as 32 unless you are super accurate already. If you are using Digitran or Transcriptionist, I'm gonna have to change that. I don't know about Transcriptionist, but 8 gigs is fine because you're not really writing in real time. You're not expecting the text to show up right then and there. Honestly, I wouldn't get a computer with only 8 gigs of memory. Um, it's just not enough. Uh, an NVIDIA graphics card is suggested. NVIDIA does make a difference in performance on the machine. That's why we mention it now. We used to never say anything about the graphics card, but recently I learned through investigation that the NVIDIA graphics card is indeed making a difference. At least 3 USB ports and adapters to convert from USB Type B, which is what we all know, to USB Type C, which is this is an example of a Type C device. Let me see. Trying to see if I can get it to. Uh, it says, okay, Comica Sound, Comica, 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 and as you'll see, it is Type C, not Type B like we're used to. Okay, so this is this is the only USB device that we found that we have approved for use. That is Type C. It's not expensive and it works well. It also has a playback. Like one is the mic and one is the headset. So you can use it for listening and playing. And if you've bought a computer in the last 3 years, you should have a Type C port on it. It may only be one, but like I have one on the side and two on the back of these. Now you can also buy adapters that go from two USB B, which is what we're used to, the your classic, normal This is a comparison of them. So you can get the adapters that takes it from here and gives it this end so that you can use your Type-C ports with your normal USBs even. So those are available. They're very inexpensive and they are available on Amazon. Okay, the old computer. Here's what we do. We connect everything to the computer as we normally do, and we take a picture, standing up over it. And I'm gonna be a little detailed about this because sometimes when I ask people, can you send me a picture of that? What I'll get is a picture of the device where it plugs into the computer. And, while that is a picture, it's not telling me anything because I need to see the entire device to be able to tell what it is. And I need to see where it's plugged into on your computer. These are the same things you need to see. And so, what I try to ask people to do is to bring it onto your dining room table, clear a space so that you can see everything. If your dining room table looks anything like mine, you clear a space. And I lay it out. We usually put a white sheet down so we can really see well. And then we hook everything together and we take a picture that looks like these pictures here at the top of the screen. You see them? And we make sure we can see where everything is, where it's plugged in, because that's important. And as we've said so many times in this class, no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how much you know your stuff, when things go to hell in a handbag, it seems like our mind goes with it. It's not that way. It's just that we're nervous and everybody's staring at us. And generally, when you guys call me and you're in front, you don't even have to say I'm on a job. I can tell. I can tell by your voice. I can tell by how quickly you're breathing. I can tell your stress level. And I know that everybody's staring at you. And that's a horrible feeling, especially when they're doing it because they're tapping their foot at the same time. Like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So you'll find that mostly Michelle and I are going to be pretty abrupt. Not ugly, but just abrupt. Like, we're going to ask you very specific questions. We want very specific answers because our goal is to get the hell out of your computer and let you work. Remember, every time you look good, I look good. So I want you to look great all the time. And so we just want to slip in, do what we got to do, and slip on out as quickly as possible. That is the goal. But what we can do for you to help you out, that sometimes might even make it so that you don't even have to call us, is to take a picture of your setup from above so that you can see where everything goes, so that you can reference it. We normally put that picture on your desktop. We encourage you to put it on your desktop or on your phone so that you can review it. Um, do a screen capture. I think I've showed you guys how to do this, but when you are wanting, I do this all the time when I'm on you guys' computers, like that error I was telling you about that one of our customers got yesterday. Um, the when she got that error, I wanted to see it and I wanted to capture it so I could send it to the programmers. But I can't right click and save because it's not going to work because I'm not physically inside her computer and it might save to her desktop rather than mine. So I just do a screen capture because I'm seeing it. So I do a screen capture, I open Paint, I do Control V to paste. There's my image. I use select and I crop it up nice and I save it. And I put it right there on your desktop. All you have to do is double click on it, bring up your sound setup on the right and make it match. That's easy. That's easy. That is something you can do even under stress. Now, don't get me wrong. You should always call me anytime you need me. Never don't call me, because we know that we can get you up and running faster than you probably can. And as we said, most importantly, you look good. So let's just get it done quick. But I want you to have the power eventually to know that you can fix it too. And you will get to that point. I'm sure Diane can tell you that. You will get to that point. It will get there. But don't be hard on yourself. You don't know the sound setup because you don't do it every day. That's not a crime. Nobody's judging you. It is the rare person that truly understands sound setup. And the people that do, normally we've worked together a lot. And over the years, it's just become second nature. So don't be hard on yourself. It's not one of the more important things that I want you to learn. In the beginning, I want you to learn how to take down and be accurate so that you can get your jobs out. Then once you have that down and you feel confident about it, then let's start learning the more in-depth stuff. It's all good. So this basically explains exactly how you do the screen capture. And you will have this PowerPoint. I'll make the PowerPoint available on the forum, or I'll just send it. I'll send it in a PDF to all of you, but you'll also have the video. Okay, so now we're still on the old computer. The first thing that we must do now that we've got it all set up, we've taken pictures, we know what it looks like, let's go in and do our archives. So we're going to do audio archive from the current list. We're going to do job archive from the courtroom list and the history list. We're going to perform housekeeping on the system so that you do not bring over to the new PC a bunch of files that you don't need. For instance, if I go on your computer, I'm going to make at least 2 test files. I try to delete those before I leave, but maybe I'm busy, you're busy, and I didn't do it. You want to get rid of those. You don't want to bring those over to a new computer. You want to delete them. So you want to do all that. You want to create a SpeechCat backup. Remember, after you do audio job archiving and you perform housekeeping, because the more you do that, the more you're only bringing over quality, good stuff. And that's what I want for you in your system. And then we go to Dragon and we perform a Dragon user export. We put all of these things on an external hard drive. And then we move to the new computer and we pull them off. But I don't remove them from the external hard drive. They are forever backups on that external hard drive. So that if something happened tomorrow to my machine, I'd lose what I did today, unless I exported it to the cloud before I left. Remember, I have lots of horrible stories about what can happen to your machine without you having anything to do with it. So you probably trust yourself. You take care of your things. Don't think of it like that. Think of it, do you trust the world? You shouldn't. Don't. Because it will let you down. And your computer can disappear in so many ways. It can be rolled over. It can be somebody can slam into you. So there's always a way for your work to disappear. Don't think it can't. It can. And being cautious is, to me, smart. Okay, so here, when you get a new computer, if you send it to Michelle, all of these things she does for you. If you don't, you need to do them for yourself. When you get that new computer and you open the box, the first thing you're going to do when you turn it on is you're going to go through what's called Windows Hello. You've all been through it, I'm sure. It's very, do this, answer this question, answer that question, put in your email, do this. So it's very step by step. But if you need any support, I've put a few links to some good videos here about how to log into your PC, how to set up your face or fingerprint with Windows Hello, how to upgrade from Windows Home to Windows 10 Pro, because a lot of machines come with Windows Home instead of Windows Pro. It's a $99 upgrade from the Microsoft Store. It's not hard. It's easy to do, but if it scares you, there's a video that you can watch to make sure it's going the way it should be. Again, you can always pay us to do this for you, but these are things you can do on your own as well. Install all Windows updates and all manufacturer's updates for your new computer first. So before we go any further, we need to do Windows Hello. If you've got home, you've got to bring it up to Pro, and then you've got to do your upgrades. These are the first things Michelle does when she gets your computer. She does nothing at all before these things are done. And I'm going to surprise you here because people don't understand, and I get it, but people always say to me, why should I have to run Windows updates on a brand new system? It's a good question. It's a valid question. But you don't know how long your computer's been sitting on a shelf, and it could literally be 20 upgrades back, depending on how long it's been sitting on a shelf. And so that's the first thing you have to do is bring it up to date. And again, these video links will be clickable in what you get. Okay, things to keep in mind. Okay, AudioScribe requires that your computer have the professional version of the Windows operating system, and most PCs these days only come with home version of Windows. You may purchase the upgrade to Windows Professional from the Microsoft Store. Proceed to installing Dragon Naturally Speaking according to AudioScribe instructions. Then you're going to import your Dragon user, and then you're going to be sure to check that your Dragon options are set properly according to AudioScribe instructions. That is also known as Michelle's instructions. And if we don't set them to Michelle's instructions, we may run into some issues. So we like to do that because Michelle works hard on deciding what options we are supposed to set. If you are current in supporting upgrades, or you are a subscriber, you may get the most current version and build of the software that you use from the AudioScribe forum. Remember that your user credentials for signing into the AudioScribe download page on the forum are, this is for everybody unless you have changed it. If you haven't changed it, then this is the way it is. Your username is your first name and your last name the way it normally is typed. Initial cap, space between first name and last name. Your password is your last name in all lowercase letters. That's it. That's what gets you into the AudioScribe forum. If at any time you cannot get into the AudioScribe forum, any part of the forum, all you have to do is email us and let us know, text me and let me know, and I'm happy to get you in there. It's a really great place to be. And I've told you this before, lots of people go years without using it and then go, dang, I should have been using this for years. So you might want to check it out if you haven't. Okay, install your SpeechCat application using the appropriate instructions. Installing SpeechCAD basically is next, finish. It's very easy. You must have a product key in order to register your software. You can get this from AudioScribe, and you may request the key via email. Now, if you own the software, you're going to get another installation. You're gonna install and you get another product key because most product keys only work once. You can have SpeechCat on two computers. So what we normally do is we'll dial into the oldest computer, remove it from there, make your current computer your backup, and then the new computer is going to be your new workhorse. And you can leave it on two, like I said, and that's just for SpeechCat. Remember, with remote scopist, you can have those on other machines once you own the software. Okay, on the old computer, you should have performed an audio and a job archive, an export of the system backup, and the Dragon profile export of your users. Let's move on. Now we're going to install on the new computer. We're going to install Dragon, and you will need your Dragon serial number when installing on a new computer. If you purchased it from us, we have it in your database record. If you did not purchase it from us, and you would like for us to put it in your database record, please send it to us and simply say, please put this in my database record. And the only reason I suggest that is because we won't lose it in the database. And I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'll tell you this, passwords are harder and harder. Installations and passwords and all that stuff, it's just harder and harder to remember, and serial numbers. And if you don't have that serial number, you are so out of luck. Remember that you should register your product with Nuance, and if you do that, then they'll have your serial number too that you can access. But feel free to do that. We like to have as much information as we can just to back you up. Okay. Install Dragon, and you would do help and check for updates after the installation. When you go to check for updates, you can do download the update. And what we say is download the update, but do not run it ever with Dragon open. They don't tell you that. So a lot of people do it. And we end up having to go out to their computers, uninstall it, do the Dragon cleaner to completely remove it and reinstall it. Also, check with AudioScribe before you install updates to make sure that nothing funky is happening. The 15.6 update has had some funkiness. And so we've told people, unless you want to deal with this problem, that is the mic listening while it's turned off, then, we really don't want you messing with it. Then you would import your Dragon user, you would run the check microphone, and you would turn off user account control. There is, in the instructions, this is all detailed exactly how you do it. Then you install your AudioScribe application, you register it, and then you restore your AudioScribe application files. Easy, and quick. Now, the next step is that you configure sound on the new computer. This is important, and we've talked about this before, so this is sort of a review. You must plug in the peripherals the same place every single time. Why? Because when I first plug in a peripheral, it'll say, oh, look, this is the Buddy 7G. Okay, so it's listed in my Windows properties as the Buddy 7G. Tomorrow, I forget, so I just plug it in a different place. And when I go to use my real time, it's going to say, please run sound setup. It's going to think it's missing. It's still plugged in. What's wrong? Well, it's plugged into the wrong port. And so now, instead of your system seeing it as Buddy 7G, it sees it as open paren, number 2, close paren, Buddy 7G. If you then take it out and you put it in yet a different USB port, that one will be named open paren 3, close paren, Buddy 7G. This can go on and on and on. It's madness. And I don't like to see multiple, I don't like to see numbers in front of your USB ports, because that tells me that you've moved it from the time you started to the time that we've reached. And that generally means that the sound setup is going to be wrong. You have to go into the sound setup and reselect it. So if it has a 3 in front of it, you have to go and select it with the 3 in front of it for it to be recognized in that port. So I apologize for repeating this maybe 100 times during the course, but It's so important, and it's something that can make you feel like a dodo. Like you're like, oh man, did I really do that? You're always so disappointed in yourselves. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to be disappointed in yourself. You're only human. Try to remember that. But I'm going to remind you again of our old trick from way back when about nail polish. If you put a dot of nail polish, let's say that with the 7G, we're going to go with red. I'd put a red dot here, and wherever it goes on my computer, I'd put a red dot right there. And then I'd take a brown dot for my next one and a green dot for my next one, whatever. I don't care what you use, but make sure that your dots match when you plug it in. It's a great, easy way of reminding yourself if you don't have a label maker. Normally, like if you send your computer into us, that's one of the things Michelle does. She labels the computer. And she labels the devices if you send them in. So it'll have the name of the device here, it'll have the name of the device on, right above the port. And that does help. You can do that for yourself as well. Or you can just use the nail polish trick. Works great. I mean, I'm not kidding. The first 10 years, that's what we did. And it worked. And that's all that matters.
I wonder if you could use melted crayons and put a little melted crayon.
I bet you could.
Colors.
Yeah.
Like an art
But
project.
it would pop off, I think.
It might rub off.
It would probably pop off because I have to put varnish on top of these for it to hold the wax on the board. And of course the board is porous. This is not.
That's like
So it would just slip off. But polish might even chip off, but it's a suggestion. Okay. So we've gone ahead and plugged them in the right place. Then we go to Device Manager and we check USB power management. We went over that earlier in the classes, and USB power management in the Device Manager allows all these USB devices to be turned off if they're not in use. But you see, what Windows considers in use and what we consider in use is not always the same thing. And so the point is we turn off power management so that these do not get turned off without our permission by the operating system. That is a nightmare in the making. Turn off sound enhancements. This is something you've seen me do several times. We go into Windows Sound Properties and we turn off sound. We disable any sound enhancements that are there. So any place you say enable enhancements, you want to deselect that. You do not want enhancements at all. Okay, you want to set the sound to match what you had on a previous computer. Now, if you're using the same USB devices that you used with the previous computer, that works. If you're getting new devices, that may not work. You may have to make a few changes. Keep in mind that if you have your image to work from, that's a good place to start, but that doesn't necessarily mean that both computers are going to provide the same sound, because there could be hardware acceleration going on. One could have a better sound card if you're using a sound card. One could have an old driver. And that's another thing that we need to do is check drivers. And generally doing our updates or what updates the drivers, which is why doing updates have become so important in this day and age. Keep in mind that the sound card of the computer, that's just what I just said, may be slightly different. Like there are going to be times when you have a sound card that is absolutely superb. We used to deal with a company called Turtle Beach, and their sound cards were spectacular. And Turtle Beach still exists today, and they still make devices. They still make sound devices for computers, and they are still absolutely amazing. They're actually the ones that are normally in gaming computers. Record a test and listen to all the channels to be certain that they are all recording well while you are in your sound setup. Then you'll have to go and do a real test, because a test in real time is not always going to yield the exact same results. So test in both places. Installation of other programs on the new computer. Let's talk about that for a minute. You want to install your word processor. Keep in mind that if you're a Microsoft Word user, you may use just about any version of Word or WordPerfect as long as it is compatible with your operating system. Not all versions of Word or WordPerfect are compatible with all operating systems. So keep that in mind. You must tell SpeechCat what version of Word you are using if you are using MS Word. And this is done in the Preferences tab in the Options dialog. I'm going to bring that up real quick because I don't think we've covered this and I want to show you. Preferences. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over here. Can you see it? Can you see the options? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, so here in the options dialog, I want to show you that it should say present. Here we go. On the right, present to newer Office, and then below that, present to Office 2013 binding. So if you have 2013, this one would be checked. If you have anything over 2013, this one would also be checked. And if you have anything under 2013, neither of these would be checked. So that's where you make the determination. That's where you tell Microsoft Word what version of Dragon you will be using. Another thing that is definitely true is if you have WordPerfect and you're using WordPerfect, you also have to determine what version of WordPerfect, and that happens in the style. If it's like version 11 or 12, one of the more recent versions of WordPerfect, you can just install it and it'll find it. Whereas if it's one of the earlier versions, you actually have to path to it. And so generally customers need help with that. And so if you do, that's normally done for you in your style. If it's not and you need help with that, you can certainly call in and get help with that. It's not always easy to find the executable for for Corel WordPerfect. Kind of tricky sometimes, in fact. This note here, install only what you need. That's really important. You don't want to just install everything willy-nilly. Only install what you need. You have to keep these computers running clean to get the best performance possible. If you are installing or turning on an antivirus program, you must know how to disable it during takedown. Failure to disable antivirus, anti-malware program during takedown may cause problems with your digital recording as well as Dragon's response time in laying down text. There is nothing that we can do about this. You must disable the antivirus, anti-malware program during takedown. Not our responsibility. What will it do? It will mess up your Dragon, your digital recording files. It can slow them down, speed them up, or you may choose to do as we do and utilize Windows Defender. We don't have problems with Windows Defender. Okay, moving on. Things you may need to do to set up your AudioScribe application. So you have to assure that your SpeechCat options are set. You should always be able to find the most current options on the forum. If you cannot, let me know. They may have been purged because they've gotten old. We'll have to update them. We try to update them once a year, but there's always things being added, always features being added. So if there's a new feature or a new item that you don't understand, you can always email to ask about it, or you can hit F1, which should bring up the manuals that you can look through. Okay, you will need to adjust volume levels in scope. When you go into scope for the first time on a computer, the volume levels are all the way over to the left. So you don't notice that. You hit play, there's no audio, you're like, oh, what's wrong? Maybe the wrong device is set as audio playback. And that could be true, but 9 times out of 10, we just need to move the volume from the left to the right. Assure that your foot pedal is set correctly if you utilize one in scope or present. And remember that there are instructions on how to set up the foot pedal. It's not hard, but you do have to set it up. If you want to use it in scope, you need to set it up in scope. If you want to use it in present, it needs to be set up in present. It can even be used in Digitran for marking Q&A. And if you need to do that, then you need to set that up in Digitran only. The last thing that we normally have to do is we have to position the screen so that it's the way you like, by moving the light blue lines that separate everything. And I think I've shown you this in the past, but I'll pop into scope for you and show you. So, oh, this isn't a good example. Let me go back into something with text and audio. Okay. So here is my scope screen, and I am going to turn on my speakers and then translates. Move these over.
Adria, we still see the PowerPoint.
Oh, thank you, Diane. Let's see, does it show my scope screen now? Okay, thanks so much. So there's a little blue line here. There's a little blue line here, so that you can make these bigger and smaller. There's, of course, the blue line here. This is the one that if you make it go this way, you can hide your line numbers. But what I generally tend to do is, oh darn it. Now I've got myself in a fix. Okay. There we go. What I do when I don't want to see the line numbers is I just come up here to where it has this page with the line through it. And if you click on that, they can go away and come back. And it looks like when they come back, they're totally out of whack, but you can always move them back and forth. You can move this down and up. And as I talked to you about earlier, the volume, you see the volume here is moved all the way to the left. So what you would want to do is move it to the right so that you could actually hear the audio as you're listening to it. Let's remove this window. Shared application. It's odd. Okay, so that is what we mean by all the little blue lines. You can move the status bar up or down, and all these down at the bottom, you can actually move these lines as well. But right now, it doesn't seem to be letting me. Let's see. Not letting me move them right now. Letting me move these, but not these. Okay, so that's what I mean by blue lines. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Share and PowerPoint. Okay, are we seeing the PowerPoint again? Thank you. Okay, so things that you may need. Okay. Okay, and this is just reminding you where the blue lines are so that you can look for them. And last but not least, please be aware that while these instructions will assist you in setting up your new PC, there are other things that we do in the hard setup or the web hard setup that are not listed here, as they are part of AudioScribe's intellectual property. You may choose to call AudioScribe and ask to schedule a web review of your setup to assure that you did get everything that you needed to do done to your computer ready for work. There is a $75 per hour charge for this service. You may use your incidents if you have time remaining. So just know that you can always call and say, okay, I've done the majority of the work myself. If you would just look over it for me, see if I missed anything. It's likely to take less time if you follow the instructions that we provided. And it's still a way of having, Michelle or I bless it, if you would. So that is our presentation for today. And so it's going to be an early class today. I very much look forward to next week where we will be talking about troubleshooting, because troubleshooting is so, so important. It's something that you learn as you go, for sure. But I think giving you the gift of introducing you to some of the issues that you could see and why they show up and how to resolve them is a really good thing. So I'm really excited about that presentation. I'd probably have time to go through it today, but I think that there are going to be other people that want to attend the troubleshooting class. So I'm going to just wait and do it next week.